So let's just dig into it a little bit, Shaun.
Okay. Where do you want to start, Hal?
Well, we started talking a couple of weeks ago, and with the Sharks earlier, about captains, team captains, and leadership. And I had discussed the fact that I have always struggled with how to do this, how to select them, and then how to train them, or how to mentor the captains and make sure that they're good leaders, and what that means. And so we've had some discussion on that. And then my next level of I don't want to call it frustration, but disappointment is my inability to develop a culture where those those role players are just as actively engaged and valued in my locker room. Not so much valued by me, but valued by their teammates. And we've had some incidences of bullying. And so we're dealing with, I don't know, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys primarily. So I think there's an intersection between leadership and team culture that is very nuanced. You have to work at it pretty hard. And before you got on, Shaun, Wally was sort of wondering how much of it is player driven and how much of it is parent driven, and how do we deal with all these issues. So there's a big chunk of conversation. Maybe you can pick that apart a little bit, Shaun.
Well, prior to starting my mental skills practice, I worked with what at the time were known as the most at-risk teenagers in the communities that I was working in. So they were the kids on the street, they were the kids in group homes and running away from home and all form of addictions. And part of the reason that I decided to go down the athletes realm with regards to mental skill is because the same deficits I was seeing in the kids that were struggling in more intense ways, I was seeing in athletes. And so here's a couple things I've learned over 35 years working with kids. And number one is that most kids, when they think about leadership, they associate it with popularity. I don't know that they necessarily have a framework for what leadership really means. And where a lot of young people bump into problems with leadership is because they lack social courage. And the social courage is lacking because belonging and the need for belonging is so high that they'll compromise who they are in order for the perception of belonging, even if the compromise takes away their authenticity. They'd rather belong inauthentically than be potentially rejected authentically. And so when you pull a group of young people together on a hockey team and we talk about leadership, I think we need to talk about people skills as a focus for the whole team. And then as people skills are developed, then I think you find out who your most socially courageous and skilled individuals are. And then that is an opportunity to maybe train or give them opportunities to lead within the context of the environment that we're creating as a whole. I don't believe that in most cases that coaches can take a back seat to this. I think coaches have to set the stage for social courage to be executed by laying out expectations, by setting clear roles and guidelines, and then in like how you talked about including role players more with regards to contribution to the team. And I think if the coach sets the role and affirms the contribution, that the team is more likely to follow than to expect them to appreciate it before the coach affirms it. So I've always believed that contribution and affirmation is the key to connecting. Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of teams where the top 6 forwards, the top 4 defensemen, and the goalies get a lot of the reinforcement, and the rest of the team is kind of left to figure it out to themselves. In the youth programs, if teammates are also friends outside of the team, then I think that when coaches or when leaders within the team don't affirm the role players, then the coach or the leaders lose the respect of the higher end players because that's their friends that are being left out, not just their teammates. So I don't know. Those are a few thoughts that if you want to kind of riff on that a little